On call with the emergency services now on BBC One, Michael Burke.
All of tonight's rescues are true stories. We've sometimes used actors and stuntmen, but everything you see is based on the accounts of the people involved. They've helped us to reconstruct the events as they happened. Tonight on 999, a paraglider pilot gets tangled in his canopy and hurtles towards the ground at 100 miles an hour. The real-life rescue of a teenager mown down by a juggernaut and trapped up to his neck in freezing water. And they've made it. Fresh from the fire school, it's the first day at work for the newly qualified firefighters. Adventure sports like snowboarding, rock climbing, paragliding are by their very nature dangerous. It's part of the buzz, and you wouldn't do it if you didn't enjoy the risk. You can take all the proper precautions, you can wear all the right safety gear, but you'll always be at the mercy of nature when you push it to the limit in the mountains. Pat Dolan was an experienced paraglider pilot, training in the Italian Alps for a big international competition when his luck ran out. Paragliding is when you launch yourself off a hill or a mountainside attached to a parachute that's shaped like a wing. And Pat was having a spectacular flight until he lost control. He was a mile high at the time. This is the story of a man who fell to earth and survived. Pat is played by an actor, and we've used stunt pilots to reconstruct what happened.
The freedom that you get when you're actually flying up there on your own. You can just look down on the earth and it's just totally tranquil. An absolute gorgeous feeling. The nearest thing you can actually get to being a bird without having feathery wings.
I was always worried when he did do paragliding, but I accepted it because that was part of him. I wouldn't change that about him because that's what I adore about him.
You're on a different level within your mind. People who do yoga or meditate or anything probably get a similar level without the danger.
Oh, it's looking great.
Pat was representing England in the Bossano del Grappa, an international paragliding competition held in the Dolomite Mountains of Italy. That morning he was going on a training flight led by Dr. Andrew Buckmill, the most experienced pilot.
An African return along the ridge or something like that. Great. Okay, that sounds good to me. Good. Let's go.
We were going to do some competitions that year. And so we decided we'd go across it a bit early and do some training flights across the mountains and just get the lie of the land, really.
Takeoff's here on the map, and if we head about 10k down the ridge, there's a big domed church. You'll see it just off in front of the ridge. It's really obvious, you can't miss it.
How long do you think that'll take?
Probably a couple of hours.
For a couple of us it was going to be very easy, you know, just a nice warm-up, and for others who hadn't really done much in the way of competition flying or flying to tasks, it would be a nice challenge.
Pat to Andy, radio check, please.
Yeah, got you loud and clear. Can you hear me? Yeah.
The group would be in radio contact the whole time.
The first flight from a new site, going up and above the mountains, was a fantastic feeling.
Paragliders gain height by riding thermals. Pat had caught a big one, leaving the others way below.
Hey! I can see the top of your canopy! I'm right up over you! How does it feel down there? Well, it's going to be a very long walk home for you, isn't it?
He was teasing us about this very strong thermal he'd found. And he was climbing faster than the rest of us, and he was making the most of it.
The others flew the planned route and landed at different times a few hours later, unconcerned that they hadn't heard from Pat for some time.
I was going up quite rapid and nice and tight. I'd looked at my altimeter a little bit earlier and it was saying 5,000 feet, but I was still going up quite rapid. All of a sudden I hit some turbulence of some kind and over half of the wing collapsed. I've never actually come across anything that could throw me, a man of 14 stone at the time, plus all my equipment, throw me around like I was a rag doll. At that point I started to fall into the wing. And the wing hit me and then immediately started falling again. And the wing inflated again, but not inflated properly. To my horror, the same thing happened again. Except this time I didn't go into an edge of the wing, I went right into the middle of it. It didn't matter how much I pushed or shoved or pulled, the wing just wouldn't move away from me. Getting tighter and tighter. It was like a shroud and it was just picking up speed all the way down. I was trying to get my emergency parachute out. The pressure was so great on the canopy that it wouldn't allow me to get to the parachute. I was coming down at 100 miles an hour or somewhere near there, and this phenomenal ground rush just came surging at me. All you can do is just tense up and hope for the best. I couldn't work out whether I was alive or dead. Sounds strange, but I didn't know whether there was this period that you was given a couple of minutes where you could see, but even though your body was dead, and it was a really strange situation. I wasn't quite sure whether I was looking out of a dead body or whether I was looking out of a live body, really. I sort of knew that I'd done something really drastic, like broken my back or something had gone through, but so I knew not to try and move. I knew not to turn my head because I was a little bit worried that the brake was somewhere up on the higher parts, and if I turned my head I could kill myself. I just concentrated then on breathing.
Mike, this is Andy. Is that you just approaching the landing field?
Yeah, I'm just coming over you now.
Okay, have you seen Pat recently?
Sorry, I haven't seen him for quite a while. Andy! Mike!
I tried to use my radio, but the throat mic had actually jumped off in the impact. I tried to do Morse code on the radio. Nobody was picking it up, or if they were picking it up, they probably thought it was some kind of static or interference. And then I went back to basics.
Help! Help!
was a good flight, wasn't it?
Pat's colleagues were completely unaware that anything had happened to him and didn't worry because it's not unusual for a group to become separated in mid-air.
He's probably in the pub, isn't he? Yeah, probably. He's got any sense?
We thought that he'd just got waylaid. Maybe he'd landed further away from the gold field, it was taking longer to hitch back, or maybe he'd landed further away from the road and he had a bit of a walk to the road or was having difficulty finding a lift. We weren't too concerned about it at the time.
Pat had plummeted to the ground in a remote valley. Luckily, a group of Italian hikers heard him shouting.
Eccolo!
I felt a sense of relief.
Parli italiano?
Then, within a few moments, I also felt a sense of dread, and I actually thought this is going to be the dangerous part now because somebody's actually found me, and I thought, well, it's going to be my luck now that I've actually been found, something's going to go wrong. The first thing that one of the Italians tried to do was to take my helmet off.
No! No!
It seemed the wrong thing to do, so I'd raised my voice slightly and asked him in the best possible way not to take it off.
No! No! Lo giriamo piano, piano. Riesci a parlare, eh? Togli il capo, non parla neanche, eh? No!
He didn't take it off, so he must have understood that I was saying no.
Proviamo a sistemarlo un po' meglio e poi...
Allunghiamogli le gambe.
Vediamo.
Ma non vuole, gli fa male. Guardiamo se ha qualche ferita o qualcosa. No, aspetta. Lo giriamo e gli allunghiamo le gambe.
Just to put the icing on the cake, one of them tried to actually turn me over. And he thought he was going to put me into a better position.
No! Non voglio... No.
I will be forever grateful that they actually found me. But if I hadn't have been conscious, they could quite easily have either killed me or caused me a lot more damage than I already had.
I need a helicopter. I need a helicopter. L'elicottero, dai. A helicopter. L'elicottero, dice l'elicottero. Vuole soccorsi con l'elicottero? Rimani qua tu, Luciano, con lui.
Pat's first aid knowledge from his army days allowed him to take control when his rescuers didn't know what to do. But their simple human kindness was more valuable than they could ever imagine.
Come stai?
He seemed very calm about the situation.
Vai tanto male, ma adesso arrivano, sai?
I understood what he was saying, and at one stage he was saying, be brave, have courage.
Coraggio, eh? Vedrai che adesso fanno questo ad arrivare, sai? Tra poco arrivano. Ti bagno un po' le labbra, aspetta, un po' di neve.
You don't realise at the time how valuable that is until you're actually in that situation yourself.
Di coraggio, eh?
Thank you. And somebody actually takes the time out to talk to you and reassure you and try and pull you through.
L'elicottero fa presto ad arrivare, sai? Speriamo che arrivi in fretta.
Especially if those words that man might be saying to you might actually be the last ones that you hear. So it's good to know that somebody actually takes that time out.
Airlifting Pat to hospital was to require immense flying skill. He couldn't be moved downhill, and there was no obvious landing site.
Vedrai che adesso è tutto finito.
If I could get in that helicopter into the hospital, then I was probably going to survive.
We had the patient on the stretcher. It was very dangerous to bring it downhill. The helicopter couldn't land there, but it came very close to us. The position is critical because if the helicopter moves when we are loading the stretcher, the patient can fall from the helicopter. The blades were very close to the hill, so it was very difficult for the pilot to keep the helicopter in this position, and it was difficult for us to load the stretcher without falling down the hill.
Pat was flown to hospital, where he spent 18 hours in the operating theatre. His heart stopped at one point, and his leg, ribs and back were broken. Doctors told him he'd probably never walk again.
I was really upset because the type of life that I led was so active, and to take my legs away, it seemed, at that stage, and that on top of everything else I was feeling at that time was devastating.
2 years after the accident, Pat has found a new sport.
I do see people with Pat's sort of injuries in my line of work, and in my experience, it's a very hard road to recovery. There's a lot of work to do, and it takes a long time, and psychologically it's extremely difficult. And I was very impressed with the positive attitude that Pat had towards his injuries, and how hard he worked and how well he's done.
Since his accident, we've been involved with a lot of disabled people, and I've learnt loads with regards to how people adapt, and you do adapt. You get knocked down, but you've just got to get back up again. And Pat has done that, definitely.
She's 100% behind me, and she's quite determined that I'm going to walk again, and I don't think she'll take it from anyone else that I'm not. And so all I can give it is 100% now, and see whether I can in the future.
Pat is now in training for the Paralympics in the year 2000, when he hopes to represent England in the field events. The fact that he survived the fall was pure luck, but he knew enough first aid to stop his rescuers inadvertently injuring him much more. If you were confronted with a similar situation, would you know what to do? The paramedic Clive Hadrill has this advice.
If you see an accident, always suspect a spinal injury where extreme force is involved. You must treat the casualty with great care. When the spine is damaged or broken, the person may complain of pain in the neck or back. They may lose feeling in their limbs, or get a burning or tingling sensation, or their arms and legs become stiff and heavy. Some people feel they've been cut in half. Ask someone to dial 999 for an ambulance and leave the injured person in the position you found them, even if they look uncomfortable. Support their head without moving them by firmly placing your hands over their ears. Reassure them and tell them not to move. And don't let go of their head until help arrives. There are only 3 occasions when you should move them: if they're unconscious, if they're not breathing, or if they're in danger. If they're unconscious, but they are breathing, you must put them in the recovery position. Your priority here is to make sure their airway stays open. Get one person to straighten their legs carefully while you continue to support their head. Then get them to move the nearest arm into the how position. They must then grasp the person's opposite thigh. Lift their knee and place the other arm across their chest. Then ask your helper to bring the casualty towards them until their body is resting on your helper's knees for support. At the same time, you must move the head gently, keeping the nose in line with the navel. Stay in these positions until medical help arrives. Even if you're on your own, you must put an unconscious person in the recovery position. If the person stops breathing, you will have to turn them onto their back and start resuscitation. Ideally, get 4 people to help you log roll them over, continually supporting their entire body. Make sure the head, back and toes are in line. To open the airway, tilt the head back very slightly and lift the chin very gently. If they're still not breathing, start the ABC of resuscitation until help arrives. If they're in immediate danger, carry them carefully to safety. The person supporting the head should take the lead, while the others support the neck, back and legs. As soon as you reach safety, put them down in the same position. and continue to support them until help arrives.
If you call 999 to report a fire, your call will come through to a control centre like this, where operators take the details and dispatch a fire crew. There can be long periods when nothing much happens, but when that call comes, it could be life or death. When Katie Johnston from Glasgow called 999, it was the middle of the night, her flat was on fire, and she was trapped in a windowless box room. Her lifeline was the emergency operator, Sandra Brown. We've used the actual call in our reconstruction, and Katie is played by an actress.
I had a box room in the centre of the flat, and I decided to have my bedroom in there. It was the most economical, warm and cosy place to be. I got home approximately 1:45 in the morning and then just went straight to bed because I'd work in the morning.
As Katie slept, a fire that had started in the hallway outside her flat spread under her front door.
Normally when I sleep, a brass band is what I need to get me up out of bed. So it was very unusual for me to actually even hear the doorbell ringing.
The flames had melted wires in the doorbell, making it ring constantly.
I thought, oh goodness, who can that be at this time in the morning?
Oh no! Hi, fire brigade.
Hello, fire brigade.
Hi, my flat's on fire, please.
What's your address?
She passed me her address. She told me she was in a top floor flat.
Right, if you get out of the house, the fire brigade will attend.
I can't get out of the house. My front door's on fire.
It's very rare to take a call where you are actually speaking to the person who is trapped inside the building.
Hey gents, we have persons reported. Fourth floor dwelling well alight.
When it's actually confirmed that a person is trapped, then you do get an additional rush of adrenaline.
Let's get things organised.
Oh no! My electricity's just gone off.
In a lot of fires, the electricity will go off, but members of the public don't generally expect that to happen. So she started to get a bit panicky.
I want you to go and open the bedroom window.
I can't get out my bedroom.
Have you got a window in the bedroom?
No.
No?
No. Oh, you need to hurry up. It's coming.
The smoke just came from absolutely nowhere.
Any sheets or blankets or pillows you can put along the bottom of the floor? You haven't?
No.
Nothing like that in your bedroom?
The door's full of slats. The smoke would come in anyway, so it doesn't matter. What I do, I just go, don't even try and explain to her.
Right, I want you to get down onto the bedroom floor. There's a lot less smoke down low.
Just can't breathe in.
Right, they are on the way. Are you down low?
Yeah.
Right,
By this time, the room is absolutely filled with smoke.
try and breathe nice and slow. Do you hear me?
I was finding it very difficult to breathe, and my eyes were really, really sore with the smoke.
Oh God, the fire's in here now.
The fire's in there now. Right, I want you to get as far away from the fire as possible. Now, there's somebody there now, and they are going to be with you very shortly.
So need to come in now.
Who's there to be here now? Up the stairs, come on!
Normally, all it would take is a few kicks with a Glasgow door opener, a size 10 welly.
It did seem to take a long time for them to gain entry. At that time, I did not realise that she had a steel reinforced door.
Now, just try and stay calm. You're going to be all right.
I was at the point of no return. If they didn't get in now, I wasn't going to get out at all.
The door gone. Come on, get a team in. We go.
In front of us was like a wall of smoke. You could not see your hand in front of your face. Torches were rendered useless because the light reflected off the smoke.
I want you to try and make some noise. Now, I don't want you to shout because that'll restrict your breathing. Bang your feet on the floor.
I need to stand up.
You don't need to stand up. Lie on your back and have a tennis for tantrum. Stamp your feet on the floor. Right, shout now. Shout out loud. Louder than that.
Let me hear.
When I saw the fireman's torch coming in through the darkness, the sense of relief was unbelievable.
Hello?
At that point, the phone went dead.
Hello?
I couldn't be certain they had removed her from the room.
Someone to introduce. For your information, this is a female casualty. It appears to be the casualty you were speaking to on the phone. But is there someone or...
When you hear that it's gone well, think, right, well, I've done my job. That is what I've trained to do.
Katie was treated for the effects of breathing in smoke, but was allowed home later the same day.
For what Sandra and the firemen have actually done for me, it has now inspired me to look into a career within the fire service for myself. Sandra being on the other end of the line definitely was the thing that kept me going. She was my lifeline.
By the end of the summer, the BBC 999 Lifesaver Roadshows would have trained nearly 50,000 people in basic first aid. If you'd like to learn how to save a life in an emergency, the last of this year's shows is going to be held here at London's Olympia as part of the Ideal Health Show. Places are free, but must be reserved in advance. To book your roadshow ticket at the Ideal Health Show on Saturday the 4th or Sunday the 5th of July, call us now on 0891 339 999. Lines close at midnight.
Well done.
Brilliant.
King Norton Fire Station, Birmingham, and firefighter Stephen Godfrey reports for duty.
First morning. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Now it's here, I'm thinking, oh heck, it really is here now.
Right, Patron, Uncle Watch answer your names. From Grimes, from Herder, from Godfrey.
This is just what I wanted. I'd just get away from that training school. You can let your hair down a bit here, you don't have to stand on ceremony all the time.
12 miles away at Walsall Fire Station, one of the busiest in the country, Dan Burke arrives for his first day.
Obviously, I'm very pleased to be here. It's nice to have done it. It was a good experience. Came through training.
Preparation. I left call the roll. Red watch answer your names. Firefighter Harris. Sir. Firefighter Maiden. Sir. Firefighter Burke.
Sir. Firefighter Burke. Red watch.
Oh, yeah.
Station cook. All right, this is the one you've got to obey. I know you're probably a little nervous, but try not to be. We're all friends here and we're here to look after each other.
If you don't do it, the door's shut, you can't get out, so you've got to go down there once you start.
Right.
Okay? So if you can hold the
Amazingly, after 13 weeks at training school, it's something the rookies have never done before.
Step on. Yeah? Yep. Lock your leg round.
Yeah.
Lock your other leg round. Yeah?
Yep.
Training school is the first hurdle, and only the first hurdle. From now onwards, it gets more difficult. The help is better because we're a tight-knit group. But you will have to work very hard for the next 18 months to get through your probationary.
The watch you've gone on, which is a starting day shift, first day shift today, extremely lively, likeable bunch of blokes. I think you're going to get on very well with them. They are very, very competent. We will look after you, and we wish you the best of luck.
It's not long before Dan gets his first shout. He spent 3 months training for this moment, but there's nothing like the real thing to set his heart racing.
It's one thing they can't really teach you, the adrenaline of when you get a shout and running and jumping on the appliance. You just can't get the realness of it. You just can't be simulated. All you can do is experience it yourself.
It's a minor car crash, or RTA as it's known to the emergency services, but the driver's trapped and needs cutting free.
A new lad, I don't know much of it, obviously, but this will be a good learning curve. It's got to be a good learning curve. I mean, he's in an RTA, but the casualty is not visibly badly injured, so at least he's learning something. He's surrounded by enough blokes or enough blokes who've got time in, you know what I mean? Like, there's no dishonour in feeling ill at an RTA. Like, we want your assistance, but there's no dishonour in being ill at a road traffic accident.
It's always there in the back of your mind, waiting. You think, oh, the bell's going to go down in a minute, we'll get something. But nothing's happened, it's been quiet.
The initial start-up is a tricky bit, and then...
You'll enjoy the station. It's a one-machine station, 5 men on duty at all times. If we do turn out, you go. You're part of the crew. There's no luxury here, you're straight in.
Finally, after several hours doing station chores, Stephen Godfrey gets the call.
It hadn't worried me at all up until last night. And I was lying in bed thinking, oh, crikey, what if we get a really big job first thing, and if I've only been there a minute and I haven't got all my kit ready, and all these things start going through your head, or is this really a shout? Is it the real thing? Or are they just testing me? Or they just press the button for the hell of it, just to see if I run? It is strange. It is a buzz. It's an adrenaline rush.
It's a fire in an old people's home, potentially a major incident on his very first job.
When the bell goes down here, it's all real. We're going out, and the public, they don't realise whether I've only been in a day or 30 years. They just assume that I know what I'm doing, I can do the job. Because of that, it gives you a responsibility towards the general public. I feel you automatically go into that mode where you don't have to be shouted at all the time, because you're responsible enough to do the job.
In Walsall, Dan Burke has hardly been back to the fire station when he's off again. This time, a factory's on fire.
Stay with us. Get to a factory, you've usually got a job. What is it? Gas line
A fire's broken out in the roof of a warehouse, and there are some highly dangerous fuels and chemicals nearby.
This vat is white spirit, so obviously it's highly inflammable, and so this is what we're going to protect. It seems to be isolated now, so they can go up to where the main part of the fire is. I'll just need to go up and check on them now.
Start at the top and work your way down. Right. Just wave it from side to side.
Stephen Godfrey's call out at the old people's home turns out to have been more smoke than fire. A tumbled dryer overheated, filling the corridors with smoke from some scorched cushion covers that had been in the wash.
A bit more like a real fire. Plenty of smoke, not much flames, but needed BA, definitely. That's the first one.
Back at the factory, Dan's on damping down duty.
Yeah. See there. Okay, forget all that. Take it up first. Take it up.
There's a lot of timbers glowing and what have you, but there's no major burning, not at the moment anyway. So they're just damping everything down now and making it safe. It's nothing like the training school whatsoever. A lot of the training school stuff is just that. You do the training which teaches you basics, and then you come to a fire station and learn how to be a firefighter. It's really difficult knowing what to do, of course, and people mentioning hose reels and other things coming from other directions. You think, which way do I go? So
stick close to me.
I went with the LF and okay.
Yeah, all right, done well.
Sorted it.
I'm very impressed with his attitude at the moment. I've got high hopes for him, but it's very tough. I mean, but we've got to be. I mean, there's no way. There's 5 people on this station to look after hundreds of thousands within the area. Those people have got to be capable of doing the job. It is tough.
What we're doing now is cutting away. Anything that's burnt needs to come away in case there's any hot spots underneath it. So Dan's up there now, and that's what he's about to do.
This officer and firefighter Burke, as you can see up there now, are actually cutting away and breaking out. Firefighter Burke's doing a great job up there at the moment.
It's good to get the baptism by fire and get as much in as you can. It's been nice to be involved, you know, to have people say, "Come on, Dan, you can do this." For the moment, it's a real breath of fresh air. It's something different. It's what I joined for. This is it. I'm here at a fire station now, responding to 999 calls.
The 26 successful recruits from course 497 of the West Midlands Fire School are now on station across the region. It was blood, sweat and tears all the way. New challenges from day one, good times and bad times. But a bunch of plasterers, factory workers and supermarket shelf stackers made it. They achieved their ambition and nobody could be prouder to call themselves firefighters. Last year, 15 million of us visited hospital casualty departments like this after all kinds of accidents, from broken bones and burns to minor cuts and sprains. Many of those accidents could easily have been prevented, which is what the 999 family safety video is all about. It's full of useful information on how to keep you and your family out of trouble and what to do if the worst does happen. Here's how to order a copy. Send a cheque for £9.99, made payable to BBC Education, to 999 Family Safety Video, PO Box 7, London W12 8UD. The temperature in this cold store is minus 20 degrees, but that's positively comfortable compared with conditions in a Canadian winter. Air temperatures of minus 40 degrees are common, and if you add in wind chill, then the conditions can be deadly. Even a relatively small car accident can prove fatal because the casualties just freeze to death. But the doctors there developed special techniques for reviving very cold people. In fact, they've got a saying, you're only dead if you're warm and dead. But even their skills were stretched to the limit when a teenager was brought in with a body temperature of 25 degrees, that's 12 degrees below normal, after an accident on the Trans-Canada Highway. The rescue was filmed by a local news cameraman, and while you might have seen some of the video before, you won't have seen the full picture.
A dramatic rescue attempt in a White House. I'm Murray Wood in the CJME News Center. What started as a nice sunny day has turned into a wild spring blizzard that's hammering the Regina area. All attention right now is focused on one person pinned beneath an 18-wheel truck. A young man is trapped in icy water.
It was very horrific. Terrible. You've got this young kid underneath the truck. When we first saw him, I thought he was a young man. Shortly afterwards, we found out that he was actually 13 years old. It became very important for us to try and get him out, and everything we tried didn't seem to work.
If he'd have been 6 inches left or right, he'd have been finished right on the spot. It would have been a body recovery rather than a rescue.
This young boy was Kenji Chan. He was an exchange student from Hong Kong, living in Canada with his aunt. They had got stuck on the highway, and he'd been out trying to push the car out of the way when a large truck came out of the blizzard and struck him. He was knocked into the ditch, and the large truck ended up on top of him. This child was not only trapped in cold snow, but he was also immersed in ice water, which would decrease his body temperature very quickly. It would just suck the heat right out of him.
Initially, when we got there, we figured that maybe it was just a matter of trying to free his legs somehow and being able to grab him by the belt buckle and lift him and pull him out. until we actually found out how bad his legs were pinned in there.
The initial assessment when he was in the water was very difficult. Some of his major body parts were submerged underwater, such as his chest and his abdomen and his pelvis. If you have injuries to those areas, you know, you can die quite quickly from them. And we weren't able to assess them at that point.
When you think of how Kenji would feel about this, the way I look at it, he's a young boy. He's far away from his mom and dad and his family, and in experiencing a weather condition that he hadn't seen before. And all of a sudden, he's trapped, he can't move, and he's getting cold. I would think that he would be very scared.
Kenji had been trapped for more than an hour. Firefighters tried to use a digger that had been clearing snow to lift the lorry off him.
I guess our first assumption, we were hoping, and maybe it was a hope more than an assumption, that this digger was big enough to lift the truck off. Once we hooked up and we did our first lift, it was quite obvious at that time that we were going to have to get very lucky to get this boy out with this unit.
We had the digger hooked up, and he just barely would move the truck. It just wasn't going to be enough. Then we knew that we had to have bigger equipment, and we knew it was going to take a while to get there. We just prayed that he could hang on.
It was a real driving hard snow, and for the most part, you'd try and shield your face as much as you could, because, you know, when the ice particles hit you, it would sting.
It was freezing up the oxygen cylinder and oxygen tubing. It was very difficult for him to receive the oxygen we were giving him. And it was very difficult to keep his head covered and keep his head dry, which he was also losing heat from his body from.
When we were first digging, he knew that we were hitting him. After a while, he had no sensation. He could not tell us that we were touching his legs or not. And his emotions, you could see change. When we first got there, he was quite talkative, quite hopeful, and towards the end, he was very sullen, very quiet, and it looked like at one point that he had actually decided that he wasn't going to come out.
By the time the breakdown truck arrived, Kenji had been in the water nearly 2.5 hours.
The time was ticking down rather quickly. If this didn't work, then we really didn't have to worry about what our next plan was, because we would have had plenty of time to discuss what was going to take place, of how to retrieve the body then, because if we didn't have any success with this truck, the boy probably would have died on scene.
He was going in and out of consciousness, and that's a sign to us that, you know, that's sort of one of the more end stages of, you know, your life, when you start losing consciousness.
The truck wasn't moved much. I'm estimating less than 2 feet, and Kenji came out.
I can just remember when the front of the truck was lifted, and you could tell that the truck was going to do the job and was going to, you know, lift it so that we could get him out of there. Just relief. Like you just feel so good that finally the situation's going to come to an end.
Everybody's mood just changed. It went from nothing's going to work, he's not going to survive this. I'm sure if somebody had a bottle of champagne, that would have been popped then, because it was well worth it.
When we first put him into the ambulance, Kenji Chan started going into seizures, and it's usually a sign of deep hypothermia and sometimes brain injury, but we thought more at the time that it was basically just because of the cold that his body was going through.
It's got no radial pulses, carotid pulses.
In the ambulance, we began the rewarming process. We assisted with his breathing, and we dried him off, took his wet clothing off, covered him with warm blankets, and we administered warm fluids to him.
Come on, Kenji, breathe.
We were hoping and praying the whole way, right from the get-go to the, just please, let's get him to the hospital, because there he's got a fighting chance.
It took 30 minutes through the blizzard to reach Plains Health Centre in Regina, which is recognised as a world leader in the care of hypothermia victims. They hold the record for reviving the coldest person known to medical science.
Very shallow.
Kenji! Just feel for a pulse, guys. Peter, just feel if you have a pulse. Does he have a pulse?
Yes, he has a very slow pulse. Can we get the temperature, please?
When Kenji arrived, he was very cold. Our normal temperature is around 37, 38 degrees Celsius, and his temperature was 25 degrees. Usually we don't consider that compatible with life.
Okay, let's get the pads. Let's get the pads.
His heart had stopped. He, for all intents and purposes, could have died right then. And if it wasn't for the quick work of the house officers who were here, he would have died immediately if he hadn't had the counter shocks given to his heart at that time.
1, 2, 3. We're still in B-Tech. Everybody clear? 360. 1, 2, 3. Okay, he's back in a rhythm.
Yes, we do have a pulse. Pulse very weak though.
Do we still have a rhythm?
Kenji's heart was beating again, but warming him too quickly could have stopped it at any moment. Doctors decided the safest option was to pump warm air and fluids into his body.
We use every opening of the body that will accept heat to rewarm them. In his case, it was through openings we made into his blood vessels. It was openings we made into his abdominal cavity. And it was some of the openings that he had through his mouth down into his lungs that warmed the air that he was able to breathe and warm his lungs.
We have a change in rhythm. Let's defibrillate. Go to 360.
Kenji remained in critical condition. 6 times his heart went into an irregular rhythm and nearly stopped.
We were desperately worried about him during that first hour, and grateful that 5 minutes and 10 minutes and then 15 minutes would go by without him having a period of abnormal rhythm that we had to defibrillate him for. And then ultimately he carried his own rate and rhythm right along and started to recuperate.
Kenji, hi, you're at the Plains, I see you. Can you squeeze my hands for me?
By 2 o'clock the following morning, and after 6 hours of intensive treatment, Kenji was out of danger.
The real heroes in this story would be the people at the hospital. We did everything else at the scene, but we're not the ones that made it possible for him to still be with us today. Those people never gave up. They never once, in my opinion, even considered that this young boy was not going to one day walk out of that hospital.
Today, just over a year later, Kenji's recovery is almost complete. He still has a slight limp from his broken leg, but he's decided to stay in Canada to study.
Thanks God I'm not dying. I just think myself, yeah, they're so lucky. Yeah, because I know what happened. I know it's not a dream. I know I'm under the truck. I'm after accident and I sleep in the hospital. They're so lucky when I'm not dying.
To reserve your place on the 999 Lifesaver Roadshow at the Ideal Health Show in London on the 4th and 5th of July, call us now on 0891 339 999. And to obtain a copy of the 999 Family Safety video, send a cheque for £9.99 to BBC Education, PO Box 7, London W12 8UD. You'll find more details about tonight's programme on our website and CFAX pages.